One.
Hello
Hello.
and welcome to the Women's Cave.
Wow, that was said so flatly. It was like, "Welcome to the woman's cave."
You know what, Winona? Can I
Okay, as I was saying that, I started to get sleepy. I'm about to nod off.
Really,
I'm
you
sorry.
about to nod off? I was like in the midst of like clearing my throat, but then you hit
Oh.
record, and so I was like, oh, well, I guess I have to be like,
Just go get
welcome to
something to
the
drink.
Women's Cave.
Oh, that's another thing. Like Jay doesn't believe in like drinking stuff on camera. I just saw this one interview, and then the whole time I'm sipping on a smoothie. And I was like, oh, that does look unprofessional.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we are super unprofessional anyway on the show, but you know, like I try to have a level of like, no, they're not gonna go there. Like they're not gonna do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get dressed. I don't have on pajamas. And I think that makes it professional in the first place. If I'm sipping on a smoothie,
right?
yeah,
COVID,
and COVID.
and COVID,
If I'm
yeah.
sipping on a smoothie and eating chips, well, that's just
how
it's going
it's
today.
It's like again, COVID. Like I got dressed and put on lipstick, y'all. Like I feel like I've done the thing. I'm Jade.
And I'm Winona. Wow, we almost forgot to introduce
we
ourselves.
Did. And I guess we're gonna count that as our business. So y'all, we actually wrote some books.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, literary life guides with pop poetry that we like to, other people will just call anthologies. We don't have time for that.
No.
Literary life guides with pop poetry. And I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy if only I would meet a memoir in birth, widow's web, and foreign coffee. Right. So those are all available where you get your audio books. So yeah, go ahead and get those. And then
you can see the rest of our 17 books on our website. Jade, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, www.andithoughtLadies.com. Yeah, so that's going to be amazing. It has a lovely logo up there, y'all. We've been working really hard to up our game, so I'm excited for that.
Yes, that's why I have to bring us down a little, like a little.
So you can sip the smoothie?
So we be balanced. That's why I'm drinking smoothies and eating chips.
All right, but y'all aren't here to hear about us.
You're here to hear about our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to introduce myself. First of all, thanks so much for inviting me to join you today. You two always seem to have so much fun. And it's just a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for coming on the silly show.
Yeah.
So I'm Patricia Sands, and I'm a Canadian author. I have indie published. I also had 4 novels published through Amazon's Lake Union Publishing, which is their women's fiction imprint. And the first book that I wrote was called The Bridge Club, and it actually was about my real life bridge club. Then I started, and I really published that by accident. But I had so many people write to me, readers write to me and ask me what else I'd written, that I decided to write something else. And so I began writing books set in the south of France, because my husband and I have spent time in the south of France every year for the last 22 years. And that's why I look like I'm sitting in a field of lavender at the moment, because normally at this time of year, that's where I would be. And because of my books that are set in the south of France, and there are 7 of them, I also do a tour once a year with 16 ladies for 12 days. And we visit all the places or a number of the places that I write about in my novels. So it's really a fun tour. I do it with my really good friend, Deborah Bine, who is the Barefoot blogger on Facebook and on her website. And she's from Atlanta, y'all, but she's got the really great Southern accent. And so we do the tour together. She lives in France a good part of the year. And we just have the best time. And the thing we like the best about it is that every year, all these women, the 16 women on the tour, become total besties. They come on their own, or maybe with a friend or with a daughter, and they all just bond and become such great friends. And at the end of it, nobody wants to go home. That's the best part.
Who wants to leave the south of France? Like, nobody wants to leave the south of France. Maybe for Greece, though. Maybe for Greece.
Okay, let me just tell you, if we went on this tour, Jade would be like, the moment it was over, she would head straight to the plane and go to the Greek Isles.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I have a love affair with the Greek Isles. It is what it is.
So this time of year, you would be in the south of France. We would be on the Greek Isles.
Absolutely. 110%. So let's talk about how you got published, right? Because we don't have many authors just like got published. How was that? Like, was it so exciting when you finally got a yes?
Yeah, well, it's really kind of interesting because it sort of started by accident. And I have to tell you that, I just published my first book 10 years ago. I have not been an author all my life. And so one of the things I really like to include, one of the themes I like to include in my stories is that it's never too late to start something new. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you have a dream and you haven't realized it, then you're never too old to go for it. So when I was about to publish my first book, The Bridge Club, which, as I said, happened by accident. I didn't intend to publish initially, but a number of people read bits and pieces of it and started saying, you know what, you should publish this, that my book club would like to read it. And you're telling women's stories, because it's a story about 8 women who've been friends for 50 years. And it's basically true. So I, went the usual route. I sent out query letters to publishers and agents and got lots of rejection slips, got lots of encouraging letters as well. And so I decided to indie publish, to self-publish, which I did. And then, as I mentioned to you when we were chatting, I started getting letters from readers asking what else I'd written. And so I considered writing something else. In the meantime, I'd taken lots of writing workshops and courses and gotten involved with the writing community, which is, as you probably know, the very best way to really get going as a writer, to have other writers who know about your work and will help talk about your work. And so I wrote the next book, The Promise of Provence, which I just happen to have sitting right here on my desk because I'm about to send it to a reader. Let me see if we can.
Yes.
Yeah. And that turned into a 3-book series, and which then sprouted another 3-book series because my readers loved the characters so much they kept asking me to write more stories about them. So I also wrote the Villa de Violette series. So anyway, I published the first 2 books in that series. And one day I opened my email and there was a message that began, hello, Patricia. I'm a senior acquisitions editor with Lake Union Publishing. And I've just read some of your work and we'd like to talk to you. And I was like, oh my God. I was sure it was a scam.
Email. That is the email.
Yeah, that is.
I read it about 15 times. My heart was just going like this.
Did you print it out and laminate it?
I should have it framed. And that's a good idea. I may go back and do that.
Yeah.
So I called my husband over and I said, would you read this? Like, do you think this is real? And he said, I think so. So anyway, I answered and they phoned me. And to make a long story short, they signed me to a contract and they bought the rights to my Provence books. And then they asked me to write a standalone after that. And I said, okay, well, I will, but it's still going to be about a mature woman because I like to write about women over 50. I have lots of younger characters in my books too. I have characters from, 20 to 90. But the protagonist is a woman over 50. And the reason I kept writing about women of that age is because I heard from so many who said, you know what, it's really nice to read a book about a woman who's their age, instead of all the main characters being 30 somethings. Now for you youngsters, it may not be.
I love it.
Loving
yeah. So, you might want to buy it for your mom or your grandmom. But
I'm gonna buy it for myself because I really like to read.
And I need the wisdom.
and like we say all the time on our show, like wisdom is all around you. So like obviously you have to read books about people, mature people, because like
sure.
Kind of been in the path that you are, maybe without the cell phone, but I mean, still in the path that you are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I do hear from a lot of younger readers too, who say, it's really interesting to read those stories and see what lies ahead and see how women handle things. And it's, I don't know, when you write a book and you start hearing back from readers, it's just the best thing, isn't it?
It is. It's very interesting. We always are surprised though when people go, so we read your poetry book. We're like,
but why would you do that?
But you read poetry though. You know that, right? Like, I know we try to fool you into thinking it's something else, but it really is poetry.
Yeah.
And but it was like one of the best poetry books I've ever read. We're like, how many have you read? Two. Okay, well, hey, I'll take it. Okay, I'll take it.
Sure. No, that's great. Now, how did you ladies get started writing poetry? That's what I want to know.
It's advertised. I don't know, but well, Nona has always written poetry, and she's really, really good at it. And then I told her one day,
maybe. Oh my god, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
So Jade, one day, we were riding along in a car, and she decided to tell me that I needed to write poetry again.
Return to poetry.
Because I was going to write my last genre book and call it quits for writing and get a real job. So she said it should be poetry. I said I hate to be poor again.
She was like, "Oh, Bestie, you want me to be poor all my life? Okay, fine." Yeah.
But I wrote it for her, and 17 books later, here I am.
We're still in poetry, and it's really great because every time we get interviewed, I get to tell that story. So here's the moral of the story, y'all. Like, when you don't agree with your best friend, it might be the thing that changes your life, and you might have to repeat the story over and over again, well over 900 times.
So like every time we get an interview, she gets to be right over again, and it's just great because she smiles at me like this
every time.
And it's been the most successful.
Oh my goodness, it's been the best. It's been the best. So
you have an award-winning book.
Yes, let's talk about the award.
So what did you wear? Right. And then how excited were you to accept the award?
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I have never actually gone to accept any of the awards. A number of my books have won awards. The information's on my website. And it's always really a big thrill to get the email and even to receive the award in the mail, but I've never actually gone to accept one, I have to say.
Well, I'm gonna say she wore her best pajamas.
Yeah.
Your best pajamas.
I would have worn my best pajamas for sure. And when I got the email, I probably was in my best pajamas.
There you go. And that in COVID world really is a thing. Yeah. I wore my best pajamas for the Zoom meeting. My best ones.
At that point, it's formal wear.
It is formal wear. So I know a lot of authors are gonna ask, and they always ask us to ask people that have such wonderful writing careers, how do you get over writer's block, and how do you keep going?
Well, that's a good question. I find that if I am stuck somewhere in my novel, I tend to write chronologically too. I know some authors don't, we all have different styles, right? And some are what they call plotters, and others are pantsers, right? And I'm definitely a pantser. But I do like to kind of know where I'm going. So I might, like a novel that I'm working on right now, I have a timeline. I don't know whether you can see it. Nice. And it's only a 1-pager, and it's just to help me keep the years straight because it covers quite a long period of time. So I have that just to, make sure I don't get the years all screwed up. But if I reach a point where, I'm just not moving forward in that spot like I want to, then I go on to another page. And usually it's something that I've already written, not something that's still about to come up. I go back and work on one other detail. And once I get that rolling, then I usually can go back to where I was stuck and keep going. Or sometimes I might have to do a little bit of extra research, because wherever I happen to be stuck, maybe I'm stuck because I don't really know enough about what I was writing about in that particular page. So I might have to go in and, Google some information, read some more information about that, and then get back to writing.
So that means when you have to do more research, that means you have to fly over to France, right?
Take it off on tech.
How do you? Yeah. that is always getting taken off on taxes. How do you pick where you're going to write about France? And then secondly, what's your writing process? I think we just went through your process. How do you pick where you're going to write about in France?
Well, when I wrote the first book, The Promise of Provence, I knew that I wanted to mainly set it in the town of Antibes, which is actually on the Côte d'Azur. It's between Nice and Cannes. And so because the book then evolved into a series, I don't really have to pick another place because I know what I'm writing about, but I do have my characters go to different parts of France all the time. In every book, there's another part of France that for one reason or another, my characters went to, whether it was Corsica or to Strasbourg for the wonderful Christmas markets that they have. I always have them going somewhere else too, because one of my big things in my novels is location. I like my readers to feel like they actually were somewhere. So I write a lot about, the area and the culture and the food and the scenery and all that sort of thing. And,
And the wine.
And the wine. Yeah.
French food, favorite French food dish.
My favorite French food is in French, it's called moule frite. It's mussels and fries.
Okay, I'm not too far off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love
Is that right?
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's your favorite, so of course it's always right. I'm just like, when I go to Paris, it's like my second dish I order.
You definitely have to order the mussels.
It's like first I need some bread, wine, and cheese.
Yes.
For like 2 days because
honestly, you just live on bread. Like I live on bread and cheese.
And the occasional pastry.
I live.
And then the first real meal is mussels and fries.
Absolutely.
Always.
Love it.
Yeah.
So where can people find out more about you and your books? Where are they?
Okay, well, I have a website, patriciasandsauthor.com. And I don't know whether I sent you that graphic, but I can send it to you if you like. And everything is on there. If you go to patriciasandsauthor.com, you'll find the links to all my books, to all the different social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter, and Instagram is my favorite. I've been taking photos since I was 7 years old, and I post a lot on Instagram. Of course, most of them are about the south of France. So yeah, I love having people follow me, and I like to follow you. Are you ladies on Instagram?
Yes, we are.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to find you right after this.
All right, fabulous. Tell us a little bit about your blog, as Winona was asking, before we go.
About my blog?
Yeah.
Okay, my blog, I've been seriously neglecting over the last. You know how it is, ladies.
Yeah.
When you're writing and you got to do all the social media stuff too. I mean, sometimes it just gets to be way too much. So 10 years ago, when I first started, I was posting on my blog like at least 5 times a week. And I gradually cut back on that. It was always easier to post on my blog when I actually was in France. And, every year I would be in France, usually for a couple of months. So that was really, there was never a problem. I mean, because every day you just walk out the door and there's something fabulous to post about, right? And so it was easier then. But then as I got more into writing novels, something had to kind of, take a back seat. So I maybe post on my blog a couple of times a month. And quite often what I do is I post my newsletter that I do once a month. I post that on my blog. Like if you look on my blog right now, I think that's my most recent post. But in a way, to me, it makes sense because there's no point in writing about the same thing over and over and over again, not reinventing the wheel here. So I have a newsletter that goes out once a month, and I have about 5,000 subscribers who are really great about responding and entering whatever's going on. I usually have giveaways on my newsletter from either 2 or 3 of my author friends. And they're usually ebooks because that's so easy to give away, right? And right now through the summer, and because I'm working on edits on a new novel, and I'm working with a new editor who is awesome. And a lot of my friends have used her editing services. But I'm telling you, is it labor intensive? Oh my God, I have never.
I was going to ask you that question about how is it working with editors, because a lot of authors, you get frustrated with an editor, but they just want to see your.
For lack of a better word, we're like, shake our fist.
But they just want to see your work the best that they you can have it. So how is it now? Since you're talking about labor intensive, how is it working with an editor?
Well, I mean, all my books have been seriously edited. And I think that's something as authors we always talk about, right? And we always advise anybody else who is writing before they publish, you need to work with a professional editor and not just your cousin or your best friend who reads a lot of books. You need a professional editor who really knows what they're doing. And of course, with Lake Union, they provide their own editors. I'll be submitting this manuscript to Lake Union, but I don't know if they'll accept it. And I decided I really wanted to work with this woman. Her name is Tiffany Yates Martin. And she is just amazing. She published a really excellent editing book for authors last year. And so anyway, that's why I'm working with her. And I love the editing process. I just love getting my manuscript back and having all these comments and suggestions and things that they notice that as I've been busy writing away, I didn't really notice.
Yeah.
You sort of look at some of their comments and go, oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Absolutely. Also those moments where you're just like, that does make sense.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one of the editors that we work with, and I needed a quick 6 pages done. So we just zoomed and we went through the 6 pages. And the mistake she was pointing out, I was like, oh my, how many times have I read this? And it's just right there.
Yeah.
That's why you need those pair of eyes.
If the end of this sentence became the beginning of that one, and you just took this section out right here, and I'm like, oh my word, that's such a better sentence.
Oh, that's why you need them, y'all.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, sometimes you're just like, I don't want to see one more red line or read one more comment. I just want it to be done. But then when it's done, you're like, man, this was worth it. Like it was a lot of labor, a lot of love went into this, but it's worth it.
And then you start writing
for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Tell us one more time where we can find out all that wonderful information about you.
Okay, just go to patriciasandsauthor.com and you'll find all the links to my books and to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and sign up for my monthly newsletter. I'd love to have you join me. And I'm also a part of a Facebook group called Blue Sky Book Chat, and we're a small group, just 10 authors, and we really have a lot of interesting things going on. So look for us on Facebook there too.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for coming on.
And Jade, would you like to wrap us up?
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and wrap us up. You can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andithoughtLadies.com. While you're there, go to the bottom of the page and see the charities that we proudly support. Maybe we can support them also. We thank you in advance for that. Just remember, y'all, wisdom is all around you.
You're open to finding it and accepting it. Peace and love, you guys, from Will Nona
and Jade. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, thanks for listening.